Happy birthday, Cities Skylines II, your 1-year-old. And right from the word go, it wasn't an easy year, with IGN reporting that performance was very bad from launch. Since then, Cities 2 has seen an inevitable and predictable drop-off in players. So much so actually that the OG Cities Skylines 1 has overtaken it in most metrics. Except for that all-time player peak, Cities 2 still holds that trophy. Let's cast our minds back though to October 2023. The next few clips were recorded back then. Cities 2 released with big issues. Graphical issues, bugs, crashing, performance issues, and a whole load of missing features. From building variety, right the way through to modding, and of course, the console release. So now that you're 1 year old, they don't grow up so fast. Just look at them. Let's take a look and reflect seriously on how Cities Skylines 2 has done. We're going to start by focusing in on those missing features. And in particular, I'm going to try and assign dubs and L's, wins and losses, as we go through. First and foremost, I think we should talk about modding. Mods, code modding, customizing the game. This was one of the things that really made Cities Skylines 1 a great game. A game of longevity and much love, and a rich community around it of creators and all sorts of other people. When we look at Cities Skylines 2 now, unfortunately, 1 year later, we still see a modding system that is not yet complete. Mods were vital for the success of 1, and they're still in beta currently at the time of recording in Cities Skylines 2. They've also released this time around exclusively on Paradox Mods, that bespoke platform, if you will, to Cities Skylines 2, and while this has the obvious downside of no Steam Workshop integration, maybe the go-to place for mods on Steam, it does have the upside of being native to the game and potentially stretching across platforms. And we'll return to you, folks, across platforms a little later in the video. Code modding and support, right now, elements of it are in the game. Some of them still in beta for all of us to enjoy, while others, some of the more complex ones that are yet to quite be finished, remain in some kind of closed beta for exclusive testers to try out. Unfortunately for Cities 2, it's gonna be an L on this front. Although I would like to add that in general, the mods are great, the community behind them, great. There is so much good stuff to try. Unfortunately, it's still in beta. There are still teething problems. I ran into them myself, getting stuck, the UI breaking, the game crashing. All sorts of things can still go wrong, and so it's still an L right now, but I expect it to be a dub in the future because I do think that it's vital for Cities 2. How else has this game changed in the last year though? Well, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you will have seen many patch update videos. I haven't shied away from covering Cities 2, when it was bad news, when it was good news, or otherwise. This game has been a fairly regular focus here, and so I won't dwell or focus in too much on each individual patch. But there are a few that, for me, while not completely clear and concrete, are reasonable dubs, big wins for Cities 2. I think about the economy patch, which made at least the early game a little bit more difficult, made the economy slightly more realistic, less a city painter and more a city simulator. The decorators patch, adding extra features and customization options, as well as those extra service buildings that were added a little while back, have all helped to add more variety to Cities 2. Flesh out some of the features that it absolutely should have had from launch, and also add some really appreciated things. And so here, I give credit where credit is due, a big dub. And not to take too much of a big dump on that dub, but the patch updates weren't all just happy families. It would be fair to say that I feel like a lot of them have been some kind of take on 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You fix something and you break something else. Fix the economy and all of a sudden there's this horrific homelessness problem, for example. Generally speaking, when there has been a major update, it has made those strides forward that we've already talked about, but it's also kind of broken the game, added extra issues, extra faults. And so while generally speaking there have been some big dubs, it's unfortunately also true to say that 1 year has not been long enough to even get the base game of Cities Skylines 2 up to a level that Personally, and you're welcome to disagree with me on this, but personally, I unfortunately still believe feels very early access. Has it made improvements? Yes. Is it there yet? 1 year later? On this front, no. A bit of an L, I'm afraid. As you'll probably well know, it wasn't just free updates that have accompanied Cities 2's growth this year. There was also some paid DLC. Here, many L were taken, but there were also some silver linings at the end of the process. The beachfront properties DLC is the one that comes immediately to mind. This puppy released probably a little bit later than expected because almost every single thing on Cities Skylines 2's timeline has been delayed, sometimes multiple times, and in particular, the paid DLC. When the beachfront properties arrived, they were met with probably the harshest criticism that I've seen of a DLC in quite some time. The pack was very expensive, and it honestly added not a lot to the game. A few extra trees and some new, generally low residential beachfront buildings. They look nice, and they add variety to the game, which was much appreciated, but nothing else about that DLC was. Of course, that L was turned into a dub a little bit later on when Colossal Order eventually caved, and now that content, all of that beachfront stuff is available for free. Everybody can have it. It's effectively part of the base game now. So a dub came from many an L. The rest of the DLC story is largely just full of Ls. Again, loads of delays. It keeps getting pushed back. Colossal Order generally cite, sometimes actually, that it's done. Other times saying it needs a bit more work, or more importantly, that it relies on something else. There's a precursor element that's not yet in the game. I'm thinking code modding and the supporting elements around that may still be in closed beta. The biggest downside here is for those of you who purchased the full version of Cities 2, which included the expansion pass. Some of that content is done, the free creator packs, for example. Others, maybe not, but almost all of it, conclusively, time and time again, was delayed. So for some of you out there, you've paid for this stuff. It may be done, but you haven't yet got it. And that is a big L. L. Finally, on the topic of extra additions to the game, outside of that base game, which has improved, but has more progress yet to be made, the console edition that I said I'd return to earlier. I'm not going to dwell on this one, because frankly, it's really straightforward. It's been delayed again and again and again. It's hinging on some of those precursor elements that I mentioned earlier, and there is still no concrete date. It is, at the time of recording, indefinitely delayed, and my heart goes out to you. At least you have Cities 1 to fall back on, though. Am I right? You know I am. Okay. And the final element when I reflect on this first year has to be the process itself. The various videos, dev diaries, and all sorts of stuff that Colossal Order, Paradox, of course, have released around Cities. The general communication. I believe some of it has been good, but most of it has been mixed. At times vague, or sometimes even seemingly somewhat offensive to some of the community. The comms needed work. Sloppy, honestly. Pretty sloppy. And I don't say that lightly, but it really has been. I followed it very closely. It has not been an easy journey. So then, now that we've taken this whirlwind tour of Cities Skylines 2 from October 23 right the way through to present day, where are we at now? Well, I feel that what I've just mentioned, that kind of leaving something to be desired comms alongside everything else, has really landed Cities 2 in a difficult spot. It's a game that I love to play, I do. I love to build the cities, roads, plan the transport network, and record the clips for these videos. But unfortunately, in this first year, and even before release, the damage was done. It has been done, longer term. And right now, I'm not yet confident that it has finished being done, inadvertently or otherwise. DLC delays, the patch updates, which generally improve but also sometimes strip away from the game, have left it in a somewhat precarious slot where interest in it is still simmering but getting lower and lower as time moves on. Perhaps content is being held back for good reasons. More stuff to be done, more base elements, mods, code modding, that needs to be added. Or perhaps it might also make sense to linger in the hurt a little bit longer, ride it out, that existing mood that's happening in the meantime, and then make some kind of relaunch. A No Man's Sky-esque kind of comeback. That's my hope for Cities 2, because I do still believe, as I did a year ago, that the bones here are pretty good. Unfortunately, they have proved to be fairly frail. Somehow fairly easily swapped in and out, but every time you do that, you hurt the individual a little bit more. I'll stop this analogy here. Long story short, Cities Skylines 2 is a better game than it was a year ago. But in my opinion, and given many elements are still in early access or yet to be released, I don't believe it has yet left what I consider to be an early access period. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry to tell the hard truths. I hope it's been a fairly fair assessment. I'm not looking to just rip on it for no reason. Again, I do quite like it. There's so much more to be done. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.